Hello, everyone. Please take your seat. We are starting. So, hello, my name is Liana Suchodolska. I'm a proud member representing Paris 21 in the steering committee of the Collaborative on Citizen Data. I'm super delighted to have this room almost full to hear about the integration of citizen data in official statistics. And I'm happy that there's a growing number of countries actually embarking on this wonderful journey. So we have a very packed program this evening, and I hope you will be enjoying all those sessions. We have a couple of interactions planned for you. We have a couple of presentations just to put everyone on the spot, because as we are advancing this work, we have always new faces, newcomers into the room, and we want to make sure that we are advancing all at the same pace. And there will be also a great panel of speakers, countries, and partners who will be talking about some of the challenges and opportunities of integration of citizen data in official statistics. So with this, I would like to invite Howie from UNDESA and Francesca from Open Data Watch to open the event.
Thank you so much, Liliana. And welcome, everybody. So nice to be in this room. And so nice to see colleagues from the statistical office, the official statistics community, but also a lot of our friends from other parts of the data system here tonight with us. It's really a pleasure to open this event on citizen data and reflect a little bit on the journey that we've made over this last 3 years, going into the 4th year now. It's been really a journey defined by partnership, by the shared belief that data has to serve people, and that people are really centered. They're central to the data ecosystem. So as we think of the progress we made, we certainly made progress on several fronts, but I'd like to highlight 3 main achievements, 3 main areas. Number 1, we really invested in building bridges. The Collaborative had really succeeded in bringing these different data, parts of the data system together, these different communities together, and the engagement with national statistical offices has been really crucial. And this has happened through dialogue, through really working together and trying to come to common understanding and to a common language. And we built a common framework. The Copenhagen framework that's now, I hope, is quite famous. Everybody should know what the Copenhagen framework is. It's not just a theoretical framework. It's what we use to come together as a big community, sharing the same understanding, sharing the same language, and focusing really on what can elevate citizen data, on issue of transparencies, issue of data quality, ethics, and integration. And then third, we have really strengthened and second, we built, third, we strengthened the evidence base. We really built the knowledge and the understanding of what was already happening around the world, right? All the experiences we're able to share, the case studies, trying to demonstrate where citizen data really provide value and provide an enormous and important input to official data and to overall to the data system. Above all, I think in these 3 areas, what we were successful in doing was really shifting mindsets, changing mindsets, and moving the conversation around citizen data from something that was like maybe good for advocacy, maybe good in some cases, but not everything, into something that is really central for data systems. But of course, this has happened in a world that has rapidly changed around us. We were talking about inclusive data. We were talking about the importance of having inclusive data system, disaggregated data for SDGs implementation, no one being left behind. But now that has become less sort of understood, or less, we cannot certainly take it for granted. And in that scenario, international development financing has been strained and is really putting pressure on national statistical systems. They have to respond to increased demands for policy-relevant data with less resources. And trust in official statistics is also being undermined by mistrust in institutions, misinformation, disinformation, and the emergence of other data sources that might be, not fully trusted by and not part of the official statistical system. At the same time, we see the rapid advances in the use of artificial intelligence and digital transformation. And these innovations are really transforming the way we produce data, we use data. And there are certainly opportunities, including for citizen data. But they also present serious risks in widening the divides, and especially if they're not governed with an inclusive and ethical approach. So in this evolving landscape, citizen data play an even more important role, because they can help, ensure the quality and the representativeness of the underlying data when we use these tools, and can help surface blind spots and challenge biases. Also, citizen engagement can strengthen the democratic data governance and can help, bring that transformation in a way that can reinforce transparency, accountability, and public trust. So the collaborative can really offer that space to build that trust and to bring all these different parts of the system together through partnerships, transparency, and some sense of a shared purpose. So how do we move forward? But to talk about the next phase, I will let Aoi cover that. Over to you.
No, stay here. No, stay here. Please don't go. Okay, thank you so much, Francesca, as a mentor and friend and great colleague working together, for summarizing our progress and the important role of citizen data in the evolving data landscape. Before I get to our next steps, and which we'll be working together on that today, and the agenda for today, let me connect us to the UN Statistical Commission. This is our 4th year reporting to the Commission on the agenda item related to citizen data. With our Copenhagen framework on citizen data being endorsed last year, bringing the agenda of citizen data to the Commission shows the importance of national statistical offices, all of you here, and our commitment to make the connection between you and the citizen data community and the civil society organizations. So how much have we achieved by making this connection? Well, we need a very more systematic analysis or assessment to see the full impact. But here's some anecdotes. In Malawi, you'll be hearing that later, citizen data is being included in its revised national strategy for the development of statistics, so-called NSDS, that to be released later this year. Malaysia's National Statistical Office, in their written statement to the Commission this year, telling everyone that they initiated the collaboration with the CSOs, and they also encourage all national statistical offices to consider establishing national integration framework to bring citizen data into official statistics. And our colleagues from Colombia and UK had taken the initiative to start a working group focusing on integrating citizen data into official statistics, asking practical questions on what is integrating citizen data into official statistics? What does it look like? What are the steps that countries can take to really move this forward? So none of this would have been possible without the support, partnership, and commitment of many of you. Thank you so much, and we are very grateful. Now, at the same time, there is so much more to be done. Here are the questions. How can we encourage more countries to be on board? If you're interested to be part of this, sign up with us. How can we better support experimentation, piloting, and implementation? How can we serve a stronger bridge for peer learning and knowledge? How can we work regional, sub-regional hubs to really advance this work? How do we advance shared approaches on ethics, data ownership, and governance that support trust, trusted, equitable, and collaborative use of citizen data? And how can we really expand our connection between citizen data and other data communities like AI? Today, we'll hear from panelists who are advancing this work in different ways. Their experience can help us reflect not only on progress to date, but also on where we go next. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca and Howie. So with this, I would like to take us further to take maybe some more interaction in the room. And I invite a small Slido, please, on the screen. It's me, actually, sorry. Yes. If you could just scan the QR code and answer the question that we have. How's it going for you?
I thought that next three, next two, but isn't next two far screen? You're gonna patch it?
So the question is, where does your institution currently stand on citizen data integration into official statistics? And I can see so far 5 participants responded only. You guys are taking time. Maybe you need some refresher on what is citizen data, what do we mean here. This will come up actually shortly. Okay, we are moving.
So now the cogwheel.
Regular collaboration seems to be winning so far.
No, next two. Oh, I see what you're saying. So yeah,
Oh, no engagement. Ooh.
you're sure it's not next two on there? So it would be one of the screens. Okay.
Okay, 15 people. Okay. I think we can settle at 25. I can see regular collaboration seems to be the most applied ways of integrating citizen data. Well, it doesn't tell us much, probably, how that integration takes place. So I would like to use this opportunity to introduce 2 speakers who will guide us through what is citizen data, what is Copenhagen Framework, why it matters for the integration of citizen data in official statistics. So let me invite Heather Page from DESA and Jessamine Encarnacion from UN Women to guide us through some of the basics of citizen data.
Inputs.
Sorry? Slido?
Got it. Nice.
Thank you so much. Ta-da. Okay, so just taking from this, this is a presentation on citizen data, and we want to start with just a reminder that citizen contributions to data are increasingly central to how we understand well-being and inclusion, and they are transformative and not supplementary. They strengthen accountability, as Francesca was saying. They elevate marginalized voices. They expand who produces data and ensure relevance. And they also advance the leaving no one behind commitment in a real way. They also improve availability, timeliness, quality, and disaggregation, particularly for underserved populations. And to remind us again why we are here, citizen data, as shown in the definition on the slide, which is courtesy of the Copenhagen Framework, this is grounded in meaningful participation. It's not simply about contributing information. It's about ensuring citizens are genuinely engaged and able to influence outcomes. And this includes their participation across the entire data value chain, from production to use, ensuring that data reflect diverse perspectives and respond to real community needs. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to go a little bit quickly. So we see citizen data in action across the globe, and many are partnering with or are led by NSOs. In Kenya's indigenous communities, integrated citizen data, developed through qualitative and quantitative methods, and in collaboration with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, highlighted critical maternal health gaps and helped strengthen access to skilled care and facilities, and in one case, cutting in half a 15-kilometer journey on an unpaved road for expectant mothers. In the Philippines, the Las Piñas Persons with Disabilities Federation collected data on persons with disabilities in all 20 villages in Las Piñas and used mixed methods. And this included interviews, house-to-house surveys, as well as online tools. And this data prompted disability-inclusive actions, including the allocation of 400 employment slots after findings showed that a third of working-age persons with disabilities were unemployed. And Canada has used citizen data as a complementary source, developing crowdsourcing tools for emergency situations during COVID-19, covering disability, economic accounts, and mental health, among others. And in Senegal, Women in Mining, in collaboration with UN Women, has developed a gender index on women's participation in the extractive sector to address gaps in gender data. The index has informed parliamentary debate, budgeting, and compliance standards, and the NSO has since supported 15 CSOs to strengthen gender-related citizen data production. And in the UK, the ONS is exploring how citizen data produced by CSOs can help fill gaps in population and migration statistics. So through assessments and interviews, ONS is evaluating data quality, with early findings that are promising, particularly for more granular local insights. And this work will also help shape longer-term partnerships with CSOs. And in the case of waste pickers in Colombia, CSOs, communities, and associations conducted a census covering approximately 14,000 individuals to identify waste pickers and their families. So this data led to access to social protection, compensation, and worker formalization, and has opened discussions with ministries and DANE on developing administrative registers. So with that introduction, I'll pass to Jessa to provide more information on the collaborative and the Copenhagen framework.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. So, obviously, citizen data is not anymore a question. It's no longer a debate. The institutional question right now that we have is how do the national statistical system engages with it without compromising standards and independence, not only of the NSOs, but also of the civil society. So the collaborative on citizen data exists because it's implementing a specific mandate, a direct mandate provided by the Statistical Commission back in 2023. So the role of the collaborative is practical. In simple terms, it's clarifying safeguards, it's translating principles, conceptual principles, into tools, and it's also reducing fragmented engagements. So this basically mitigates real risks that both the national statistical system and broader data ecosystem actually recognize that, in terms of risks on validating data without agreed standards, risks of publication of data that is not comparable with official statistics, or partnerships without clear governance structures. So basically, the objective of the collaborative is really to enhance coherence, to promote coherence as the data ecosystem, as the broader data ecosystem evolves. So second, so this time, as Francesca mentioned, I hope everybody is familiar with the Copenhagen framework. Sometimes we call it CPH, but I warn them, it might sound the Census of Population and Housing. So the framework is not promotional. We believe it is a governance tool for situations where both the NSOs and civil society already face. That first define, it clarifies what qualifies as citizen data and what does not qualify as such. It clarifies stewardship. It recognizes that NSOs still has the responsibility for standards and coherence, but also with the recognition that there is no endorsement across all data sets. And then third, structure assessment. It provides the criteria, the framework provides the criteria for assessing what citizens, in terms of citizen data. Is it suitable enough for integration with official statistics? Is it complementary? Or should it stand alone, aligned with agreed standards? And lastly, enable implementation. So it establishes documented processes such as the roadmap or the action plan. So decisions are system-based so that it's not fragmented. So basically, the shift is simple in this framework. From reactive responses, we want to make sure that through that framework, there will be structured institutional decision-making across the entire ecosystem. So basically, the framework is a governance tool. It's not meant to control, it's meant to be consistent across the board. Third, now implementation. A framework only matters if it changes practice. So implementation, therefore, should be structured in this framework, and it is already visible. In diagnosis, we had stock taking across 150 plus actors, which identified constraints in capacity, in cooperation and coordination, and legal clarity, which is now shaping how we identify guidance and support. Second, develop. The principles are there, but translated into tools such as quality standards, partnership frameworks, and national toolkits. Third, operationalize. So in terms of the operationalization, there are working groups, there are work streams producing peer-reviewed methodological outputs. And lastly, anchor and apply. Citizen data is now embedded, as you have heard from Howie, in several national statistics strategies. And likewise, in VNRs, for example, in Lesotho, and femicide statistics in Ecuador, and sector policy in Senegal, as mentioned by Heather. So basically, that is the shift. The implementation is from principles to institutional embedding in all of these actions. Looking ahead, we see two medium-term priorities are emerging. Shared approaches to citizen data commons, considering ethics, ownership, and governance, and collaboration with other data communities, including AI. And then I'll be quick. Let me illustrate how working groups translate into principles, into standards. So basically, we started with gender, not because other dimensions are less, but just because it is universal and cross-cutting. We make sure that it's working on methodological translation, developing gender-responsive quality assurance, technical challenges on various areas, such as on environment, and complementary with official statistics. And then lastly, to close, citizen data will continue to evolve as we see it. So the question is whether the statistical systems address it deliberately or react to it case by case. So basically, the Copenhagen framework shifts us from debate to actual governance, to consistency. It means making deliberate institutional decisions about stewardship, assessment, and how engagement is structured and documented. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessa and Heather, for guiding us through not only the vision of the Copenhagen framework, but also, I think, the ambition to actually change practice. And I do hope that after this meeting, you will be able to change your practice and improve it in terms of citizen data integration. I also I must say I'm very happy to see now the impact of that data coming through, the use cases that Heather presented. I hope you will also get energized by this. So with this, I would like us to move to the next slide, though. Sorry, I'm just looking for it. Well, maybe it will come after.
No, the slide was at the beginning.
Do I press this guy? Thanks. Please bear with me. Okay, all the way to the start. Thank you, Howie. Please scan again. before, so everyone's responses should be there. Yes, okay, so we have the second question, as you can see. What is the biggest barrier to integrating citizen data into official statistics? Not much moving there. You seem to be in agreement. Okay, are we settled? Are we supposed to answer the second question already, Harry? It's the third one. Sorry, I seem to be confused as well. There seem to be options here as well. So the next question we also want to know from you, the answers from you, is what would mostly increase the impact of the Copenhagen framework in your country? Okay, so you seem to be pointing towards practical implementation toolkits, integration into strategic planning for statistics. Yeah, I think we settled there. For the previous question, I had the impression it was data quality that was right. The barrier, the challenge that you see as the most important. Okay, so I think that kind of a problem still remains as we are approaching this this work, and it seems to be a valid point still as we move forward. So with this, I would like to invite our great panelists.
It's good to go.
Okay, so let me ask now countries and partners to join me in the panel. Let me invite Camilo Andres Mendez, who is responsible for international cooperation in Dane, Colombia. Please applaud him as he comes. We have Shelton Kanyanda, a commissioner from Malawi Statistics Office. We have Mariana Neves, governance statistics specialist at UNDP. And Chris Maloney, program officer in Hewlett Foundation. Thanks for joining us in this discussion. So, as you know, the topic of citizen data has been for a while now covered at the United Nations Statistical Commission. It's been more or less 3 years now. And those discussions have, I think, shifted gradually from is it possible towards how are we going to do that, right? So the Copenhagen framework was endorsed last year, as you remember, and this also brings us towards discussing more the implementation matters. As you saw, the data quality issues are coming as at the forefront, but also the impact of that data, and that's why we have you here in the panel to also talk about that. So as a first round of questions, I would like to invite you to provide a concrete example where you have seen citizen data being integrated with official statistics, and what made such integration possible. So who would like to go first? Gentlemen first this time. Very well. Colombia?
Yeah, thank you very much. So one of the things that we would like to mention is that the whole work with us from us with the civil society wouldn't have been enabled without the framework. I like very much what Jessamine mentioned about how does a framework enable this kind of collaboration, because it led us to rethink as an NSO how we were working with the civil society organizations. And actually it was quite the moment for us, because it actually came through for us during the forum in Medellin, because the collaborative on citizen data had their own stand, and people started coming. That was something that we didn't do as a National Statistical Office, open our doors, hearing them out, and actually listening what they had to say. So this has been a long process. There's still some doubts on how perhaps can we better include citizen data as a source of official statistics. But what we have seen so far is the eagerness from people to participate, to work with us, and also for us to find ways to be more responsive to their needs. And it has been incidental, for example, not only in data collection exercises, but also in the way that we govern and we think of official statistics. For example, the Copenhagen framework has been a bridge for us to work with vulnerable communities, populations, which had bad relations with the National Statistical Office because we made mistakes. So I think that the Copenhagen framework, it's also a mechanism for us to say, it's not just about standards, it's about having the different mechanisms to make your data count. So for us, that has been truly incidental. And even though challenges remain, we are trying to focus in specific challenges such as the measurement of LGBTQI+ population and solving those doubts. And I'll end here.
Thank you so much, Camilo. And I think hearing we make mistakes from a statistician, it's quite rare. So congrats on that. Thanks so much for this. Malawi, would you like to tell us a bit more on your experience?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I think for Malawi, one of the missing pieces was the civil society organization, citizen-generated data in our statistical system. So I think we have done good with the government system, we have done good with the private sector, we have done good with the academia. But in 2023, thereabout, way before the Copenhagen framework was developed, the civil society came together and thought that we should not leave anyone behind. So they developed an agreement amongst the civil society organizations to say, can we work so that we don't leave anyone behind? So through that, the NSO also thought that we should not leave anybody behind. So we invited the civil society, and the civil society invited us to reach to an agreement, so we signed an MOU so that we collect data that does not leave anyone behind. So while we had developed this agreement, the civil society also left us behind and collected some data particularly on social cash transfer. They did a study themselves and recommended some changes to the cash transfer that we were giving to beneficiaries. It was about from $10 to about $50, a recommendation that was made. But from this, before we could endorse as NSO to say this is an official figure that has been recommended, the figures or the recommendations went up the authorities, and that was accepted. So in the end, the figure that is being given to beneficiaries is what the civil society had recommended. Or what we are saying is, despite that we had to endorse, but truly the civil society could recommend, and then this has been integrated. So it's not just for official statistics, but also for policy formulation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shelton. I can sense some competition there between you and CSO. I think it's a good spirit. Thanks so much for this. I wonder, Chris, whether you would like to share something from your programmatic support point of view.
Before I begin, is there any colleagues here from Ghana? There we go. Hello. So I'm going to share an example from Ghana. And I think this is a very live example, which I think illustrates many of the different principles of the Copenhagen framework. And for those of you who are not familiar, the Hewlett Foundation, the portfolio that I oversee, is really working with groups across Africa that are working to unlock the data revolution for better policymaking. And citizen-generated data for us is a priority because it really links together the inclusive governance agenda on one side and the evidence-informed policymaking on the other. And so one of the efforts that we're supporting right now in the citizen-generated data space is a partnership between a Ghanaian CSO called the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, or CCEPA, and the NSO, the Ghana Statistical Services. And they jointly proposed an effort to monitor and report officially on 1651 and 1672, which, if you don't know what those are, get out your cheat sheet for the SDGs. That's the experience of bribery and the inclusive and responsive decision-making, SDGs. And the effort leverages computer-assisted telephonic interviews of over 7,200 households across Ghana to look and understand around experience of corruption, perceptions of corruption, and doing it in a panel survey way. So they are looking at 2024 in the first wave. They have just published results from the second wave, which looked at the first half of 2025, and right now the second half of 2025 is underway. And what I think is most remarkable about this effort is it's being overseen by the GSTT, or the Governance Series Tech Team, which includes both the NSO, CCEPA, but also the Ghana Commission on Human Rights and Justice, the Ghana Anti-Corruption Commission, the Ghana Integrity Initiative, the Center for Development of Ghana, and the Participation and Accountability Initiative of Ghana. So it's this very broad-based coalition that provides strategic oversight, design, and decision-making, really ensuring that this effort is thinking hard about inclusion, about safety, and accountability. And I think when I step back from this, there's three things that I think are making this quite remarkable. The first is really just luck. The fact that we had a visionary NSO and a visionary CSO that came together ex ante to see this opportunity and really take a risk. These are tricky SDGs to want to officially report on, right? The second is then really setting up this task team that's working so hard on relevance, transparency, and credibility, and really leaning in. If you are in Ghana right now, when these waves come out, there's a launch event, there's a lot of articles around this, so that transparency piece is very real. And then I think also quite remarkably, the government is actively using these results in the design and implementation of their new National Anti-Corruption Action Plan. So everything is sort of fitting together in this system. And if you're just curious on some of the results that they're seeing, there's a lot of interesting nuance that's coming out. So for example, in this latest wave, citizens have reported a drop in experience of bribery from 18% to 14%, direct asks for bribery dropping from 51% to 38%, and while the police and the motor vehicle services account for more than half of the experiences of bribery, that too has dropped from about 60% to closer to 50%. But within that is some interesting nuance. People who are repeat bribers, or people who are reporting paying a bribe more than 5 times, that has actually increased from 7% to 24%, and people who are volunteering to give a bribe has increased from 17 to 32%. So why do I say this? I say this because as we move into round 3 and we look into the forward, we now have things to actually test and look at. How much of these results is noise or maybe something real? How can we be targeting as CSOs areas for where we might have more sharper interventions? Where might we be wanting to engage more specifically? And what are the research questions that we should be thinking about when we think about something as fraught and cloudy as corruption? So a lot going on here, but I just wanted to unpack that live example.
Thanks so much, Chris, for bringing that measurement challenge here. I think it's really great. Before we move to other questions, I really want to hear from Mariana from UNDP.
Thank you. Is it working?
Yes.
Okay. So by the way, we are the custodians of 1672, so I knew that indicator. Yes, thank you so much. Speaking of indicators, we are also custodians of 1662, which is effectiveness of service delivery. And why I'm saying this custodians, because that's where our interest in citizen data started. The indicator itself is a survey-based indicator. We found out about citizen data. We were very unsure of what it was. I'm speaking as an international organization at this moment. We were very unsure what it was, but we knew that the service had limitations. And we knew that we needed some new solution. We were very unsure if this thing that was being presented in, I think it was World Data Forum or something, it seemed just interesting, but we were not fully sure how could we move forward. And we had the first country that we worked on was Ghana. Ghana has been very proactive in a large number of initiatives, also in this one. And they were very open to work with us in actually trying to understand what it was. We wanted to first reach, Ghana had already done the survey, to reach parts of the population we did not reach before. In this case, it was with the persons with disability. We wanted also not just the numbers, The numbers are very important. I'm the first person defending surveys, but we also wanted to have this engagement with the population. What else can we say? So the co-creation of the citizen data with the communities, it was both two different regions. And after there was a certain data collection, of course, but also discuss the results with the communities, see where there was a difference. I cannot say there was a huge impact, but there was still some impact on the results. For instance, it's not it will not resolve world hunger, but they found that certain parts of service delivery, they were more problematic. And they discussed, and it's sort of small things like the cost of passports, because that was one of the parts of the indicator being measured. This is one side. And building from the experience of Ghana and building everything we've learned with them, we moved then to Iraq. And I must say, one thing that really helped moving forward was having very well consolidated experiences prior to this. And Colombia was extremely generous to share their experience with Iraq, and Ghana also shared their experience with Iraq. And that consolidated, gave a certain reassurance for us to move forward with the operation. Both the technical questions that they had, but also just, this is really our mandate? And that was one of the questions that went to Colombia. Is this really our mandate as statistical office? How do we connect with the... If you don't stop me, I'll continue to speak for 1 hour.
I can see that.
Okay.
You have 1 minute.
Summing up, it is a learning process. We are still learning, and I think every time we come, we have more questions than answers, but the opportunity that the collaborator gave us and the framework gave us is that they actually gave us a concrete framework for us to start building and seeing where we had problems, and we can sometimes email our way like, I don't understand this, and start building more.
Thank you so much, Mariana, for highlighting this peer learning component. I think this is super important and very, I think, working on the ground definitely as we support, especially national statistical offices who seem to be having like the same kind of model of operating, and they are encouraged when they see other peers actually advancing certain new agendas, new ideas. So I was just reminded, I'm very disappointed, I was just reminded by how we have to be leaving this venue in less than 30 minutes. So that means I will now open the floor for questions and comments from you. So I'm done with my questions, but you can come up with your questions to the panel, or maybe sharing of your experience of citizen data integration. And so the floor is yours. Just raise the hand and I'll give you the mic. Ghana.
Thank you for the presentations. Just want to add to what my sister has just shared with us, and in respect with the citizen engagement with public services, impact stories, if you ask me again, is that as a result of that exercise, government in recent times has now opened up the passport offices in all our 16 regions. Hitherto, if you need a passport, you need to come to the national capital, But as a result of that exercise and the results, now we have passport offices open up in all the 16. What does it mean? You don't need to travel all that to the capital just to acquire a passport. So that's one of the impact stories. And with the governance series, yes, we've published wave 1, wave 2. We've just started data collection for wave 3. And when the wave 2 results was published, indeed, the seat of government invited the leadership of an NSO that we are very much interested in the results we've published, like he shared. And in that engagement, government has even suggested 3 more questions that we add to the wave 3. So even as we continue with the wave 3 collection now, there are 3 key questions that government thought that we think that these are important feedback that if we get, it can help change the game. So Indeed, just to add up to what my brother has said. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we applaud Ghana for that? That's a wonderful example. Thank you for sharing that, really. Anyone else? Yes, Mexico?
My question is more like, because we engage with CSOs from the design and many surveys, but thinking of in the example of DANE, how can we protect the CSOs from not being excluded once we identify the potential of the data? Because I can see in EHI, I'm going to raise my hand, finding out about some information that is really useful. And then once we get close to the CSO, probably creating a new administrative record, and then using all the machinery of INEGI, and then at the end of the day, probably without the intention, excluding those who actually started the movement for that data. So in order, probably with the flag of inclusion, we end up excluding them after a while. So how can we protect these organizations or the citizens in this process?
Thank you. Very relevant question. I think we at the collaborative will also grapple with that same problem. Would anyone like to answer that? Yeah, Camilo.
Yeah. So thank you very much for the question, which is quite hard in a way to answer, but I think because it targets something which is quite usual, which is trust in the public institutions. How do you manage to build the trust with an organization and then break it? So then you have to establish a very clear framework of engagement and also a framework which also brings other partners in. So this is not only a collaboration that's done between the CSO and the National Statistical Office, because we've heard from the beginning, the whole idea of this is to change lives. And sometimes the NSO is not in charge of changing lives. The NSO is in charge of measuring what values and empowering them so they can actually go and do the advocacy with the clarity, with the quality that they actually needed. So in fact, that's what's beautiful of this whole framework. It's not only just enabling the collaboration with a specific group, such as the CSOs, but enabling other conversations with partners ministries, because they come and say, which is the best and more efficient way to do this? Through collaboration with the citizen. It's better if the CSO already comes in and says, here's our data, here's how we have worked with the institution to have this. But I'm also very aware of, and sometimes what we have seen in Colombia is that they don't even want DANE to be completely involved. This is our data. We are the community, we use it as we want, and you can only teach us how to better use it, how to leverage it, but you are not meant to tell us what to do with it in a way. So I think it's quite the case by case to go, and that's why we have developed this maturity model, enabling us to see how can we better support, because our job is not to tell them what to do with the data, but how can they have better data for them.
Thank you so much, Camilo. Any reactions to that, Sarah?
My name is Sarah Omache from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Mine is a comment in the discussion. One interesting thing about CGD is how it changes over time. We are the country that benefited with coming up with the quality criteria for validating CGD before the Copenhagen framework. And it's interesting how we always learn of new approaches taken by other countries. Each year we learn a new approach. For instance, we've heard from Malawi. It's very interesting that the data is already being used for policy decisions. And how do we have to work backwards in cases where the data is already being used, so that we can convince that in order for the decision to be based on quality data, the data has to be passed through a quality criteria. And I know that happens mostly in the grassroots, or for the countries that have the devolved system of government. Most of the devolved units do not have data system, or they do not have enough data. So they are likely to make use of data produced by grassroots organizations. I also find it interesting that there are different approaches. There is no formula in CGD. There is no There is no approach that will work for all countries, including the definition of CGD itself. We've learned from Ghana on how they work. They empower the communities to collect the data, including giving them the tools or guiding them, but letting them collect the data and use the data on their own. But they come in providing the technical support, as opposed to our definition of the communities are processing the data and they bring to us in the end as a product. Then we validate the data, we use it, and they can also use the parts that they need in their sense. And I know other countries also have their own definition of CGD, plus the guidance that the Copenhagen framework has, that a country can define CGD in a way that deems fit in their own context. Yeah, so I'm happy to be learning from the panelists and other countries. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Kenya continues.
So that Kenya is complete. McDonald George Putho, Director General, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Just from where my colleague has left, I'm very impressed by the impact that is created by the work around CGD. Just understanding what others have done with it. Of course, Kenya had also made good progress where we have managed to get we have managed to get some indicators, SDG indicators reported courtesy of the CGD data. But then we are also now working on the refugees and asylum persons. We have 2 large camps in the country. In fact, there are 3 now, where we treat those ones have been treated as a special population, and in which case they have not had any chance to appear in our master sampling frame. And so any other time, whenever we're doing household-based surveys, they're left out. But this time round, we have incorporated a module to collect information on the refugees and asylum seekers, where we created a standalone frame for those institutions for that population, and it is a 1-year-long survey. We are on the 8th month. We have just started the 8th month now, where we're doing the integrated household budget survey. So we expect to get a lot of information that will now provide intervention to this group that has always been left out. I'm very certain that going by the changing scenarios of the definition of CGD, this will really fit very well in that. The second thing that we are doing is to strengthen our legal instruments. So right now we are revising our Statistics Act, and one of the things that we are now providing for very clearly is the CGD work statistically, and so we believe that with time we are getting much better. But I enjoy the impact that this has created. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DG, for that. Can we applaud Kenya as well? One of the last questions I wanted to ask was actually how can we achieve impact from 1 year, from now until next year? And I don't need to ask because those examples are just bubbling. But unless maybe there's someone who's really burning to answer that question, maybe something more for the collaborative, what we could do as a collaborative to help you with that impact further. I mean, we saw so many great examples of this actually being taken and spearheaded further by statistics offices. But we know there's also plenty of you in the room and plenty of countries who are still waiting for that support. So I'm just wondering if anyone would like to share a really great idea of, more impact for this collaborative. Money is always the answer. Please.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Evelyn. I'm here on behalf of the Pacific community. We've had a little bit of contact with citizen data initiatives, but really very little happening in the last couple of years in our Pacific small island developing states. So I think there's real opportunity to work with one of our countries on a pilot project or do some peer-to-peer learning within our region. I'm not sure if other small island developing states have stepped into citizen data yet, but lots of potential. And we've got some very innovative NSOs with many great challenges that we might be able to address by stepping in this direction.
Thanks for sharing that, SPC. I really appreciate that. So with this, let me thank to our wonderful panel. I wish I could hold you here for much longer, but I really appreciate your sharing experiences. Thank you so much. And I would like now to invite Jenna Slotin from Global Partnership on Sustainable Development Data to tell us the next step and the way forward. Jenna.
Thank you, Liliana. Thank you again to the wonderful panel and to the presentations that started us off. It's a great pleasure to be here, to host you here where our offices are at in the Ford Foundation building, but also as a proud sort of founding member of the collaborative as well. We're very proud to have been part of the collaborative on citizen data from its beginning. I'm going to just quickly reflect on 3 takeaways that I had listening to the discussion. Of course, you all will have many more. The first one that I was reflecting on during the earlier presentations is the extent to which the sort of field, or might I even say domain, I don't know if among statisticians that has a very precise definition, I shouldn't use it, but the field of citizen data has matured so much in the 10 or so years that we've been trying to contribute to this space. And what was so evident in the presentation was particularly with the Copenhagen framework, the movement from principles to institutionalization, to practice, and then to outcomes, right? It's having that framework and those norms, then figuring out how to institutionalize that at national level, and having practical guidance to actually implement it, and seeing from all of the use cases that were on the panel, but also in the room, the way in which that's influencing policy decisions in people's lives, which is quite incredible. The second one I want to just reflect on is that we talk about citizen data, but actually it's maybe even more about engagement than it is about the data. So it is about the data. The data is incredibly important, don't get me wrong, but the entire discourse around citizen data, the existence of the Copenhagen framework has created this opening the door, as Camilo was saying, to engaging with civil society and communities in new ways for many parts of government, and particularly NSOs. And I think that's quite notable and quite remarkable. And last one was the extent to which peer learning is prominent in this area. I mean, I think we heard that on the panel, and we heard also about how, countries have learned from each other, but particularly in the face of skepticism. Right? Because I remember in the earlier days where the goal was just to encourage NSOs to be open to the idea of considering the data coming from civil society. So where some are further ahead and others are more at the beginning of their journey, that peer learning is so important to say, no, this can be done with quality assurance. This can be done in a way that is defensible and in which the measurement is really meaningful. So those are my few thoughts. I want to just really reflect also on the strength of the collaborative, which is quite incredible because of all the things it's achieved in terms of promoting and getting the Copenhagen framework approved, and then working with all the different countries that are trialing citizen data efforts all over the world. So 2 things I'd like you to think about as you leave. What contribution could you make from where you sit or the institution you belong to the field of citizen data, and how might you contribute? And second, what is the learning that you're taking away that you could share with others from tonight or from listening to the colleagues from Malawi, Colombia, but even Mexico, Kenya, and Ghana, and all the others in the room? One key point for me, and a place that I'd like you to take these contributions and these learnings and the peer exchange, is to the Global Data Festival and Kenya Space Expo and Conference taking place in June 2nd to 5th. I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. An important step on the road to Riyadh, which will be the World Data Forum in November. So I'm pleased to be in the room with DG MacDonald Obudo and Sarah from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and we're really excited to be partnering with them, Kenya Space Agency, and the whole government of Kenya to bring this event. And it'll be a great place to really roll up your sleeves, to workshop ideas, to find people who are doing things that you want to learn about, to connect with them, to create new collaborations, to road test ideas, and then to bring those ideas to Riyadh at the World Data Forum. The emphasis is really going to be on dynamism and connection and learning and showcasing experience at the festival. So we hope you all will join us there. We're expecting around 1,500 participants from over 90 countries. So we hope that the diversity of representation there will allow everyone who joins us to contribute and to learn. So with that, we have one final sort of guest who's been able to join us tonight. I'll hand over to Liliana to make the introduction, but I do wish you all a very productive week at the Statistical Commission. It's the beginning of that week. Be nourished, hydrate well, get some sleep. I know it'll be busy.
Thank you so much, Jenna. As you can see, the work continues, but I'm really happy to welcome with us today in the room Assistant Secretary General of DESA, Mrs. Björk Sanker. Please share with us.
Good evening, and thank you very much. It's fantastic to see you. I think it's wonderful to be here with you. Some of you I met on Saturday as well. It's very inspiring to see and hear and learn the great work that you're all engaged in, and to see that as the UN, we can function the way that the UN is supposed to function, by bringing people together to share those experiences. And I just hear, people sharing, people learning from each other. It's very inspiring for me. So I would like to start by just thanking you for being here, and not least for all the important work that you do in your different contexts. And as you've told us today, I don't need to tell you this, but of course the citizen data are so important because it does help to make visible the people and the realities that are often missed in traditional data systems. We've heard the experiences from even just from the panel here tonight, and how citizen data can really strengthen the evidence base for more inclusive policies and more responsive institutions. To some of the work that we are engaged in at DESA, and that you also are engaged in with us, it's incredibly important. Just mention a few of the key processes that we are engaged in moving forward. Of course, you're all familiar with the 2030 agenda and leave no one behind. Citizen data helps us moving forward on that. You will remember last year we had a couple of key events. The Financing for Development Conference, the fourth, that took place in Sevilla, with important agreements, including agreements around the use of data to fight corruption or other, to promote development, but also to address those phenomena that hamper development. And also, you'll remember that we had the second World Summit for Social Development that took place in Doha. Again, an important conference, but those agreements don't mean much if we don't take those commitments from that paper and translate it into action. And the work that you do is incredibly important in doing that. And I would also like to commend the National Statistical Offices for embracing this innovative approach, for being inclusive, for working together and figuring out how to take this forward. And just to really reiterate and emphasize that DESA is here to support the work. We're committed, we're engaged. Lots of good colleagues from Statistics Division that are here that you all know, and other parts of DESA. This agenda is very closely connected to our broader commitment to inclusion, to participation, and to evidence-based policy making. So let me end by really commending that partnership again, and how this discussion tonight really reinforces that advancing this agenda does require exactly that partnership of governments, of civil society, of academia, of foundations, and us that are part of the UN system, working together. And I would really like to acknowledge the role of the collaborative on citizen data, now that I'm here, co-led by the Statistics Division and Open Data Watch. And with that, and I think I am the last speaker, so I should make sure that I thank the panelists and thank everyone that has contributed to the discussions tonight. To thank the collaborative steering committee members, the donors, not least thank the host, because your engagement and your commitment are what make this work possible. So we look forward to continuing this collaboration. We end the event today, but it's not the end of the conversation. The conversation continues, the partnership continues, and I look forward to working with you to really advancing this agenda. So with that, thank you and good night.